I went into the hospital for hip replacement surgery on a Monday morning. 7 days later, when I tried to come home, my key didn't work in my own front door. My daughter-in-law Vanessa had changed the locks on the house I'd owned for 42 years. The house I'd raised my son Brandon in. The house my late husband and I had worked 3 jobs to buy. When I knocked on my own door, she opened it just wide enough for me to see her face, and she said words I'll never forget. "This is my house now, Ruby. You're too sick and old to live alone. We're moving in, and you're moving out." Then she closed the door in my face while I stood there on my own porch with my walker, still wearing hospital discharge papers in my purse. Before I tell you what happened next, and trust me, honey, Vanessa had no idea what was coming. Let me ask you something. Where are you listening to this story right now? Are you at home? At work? Taking care of someone who takes you for granted? Wherever you are, I'm glad you're here, because what I'm about to share might save you from making the same mistakes I almost made. If you've ever trusted family only to have that trust thrown back in your face, hit that subscribe button. We share real stories here every single day. Stories about betrayal, boundaries, and what happens when people underestimate you. Turn on those notifications because this community is about standing up for yourself. My name is Ruby Thompson. I'm 65 years old, and I live in Memphis, Tennessee. Or at least, I'm supposed to live there. In the house that's legally mine. What Vanessa didn't know, what she couldn't have known, is that I'd been watching everything she did. Every single move. This is my story. Let me tell you about my house first, because you need to understand what Vanessa tried to steal from me. I bought that house in 1983 with my husband Jerome. I was 23 years old, he was 25, and we'd saved every penny for 3 years to make the down payment. It's a small brick house in South Memphis, 3 bedrooms, 1.5 baths, a front porch with a swing, a backyard with a magnolia tree Jerome planted the day we moved in. That magnolia tree is 42 years old now. So are the memories in that house. We raised our son Brandon there. I can still see him as a little boy, running through that backyard, climbing that magnolia tree even though I told him not to. Jerome would laugh and say, "Let the boy climb, Ruby. Boys need to climb." Jerome died 8 years ago. Heart attack at 57, sudden and devastating. One day he was here, the next he was gone, and I was alone in that house with all our memories. But it was my house. Paid off. Mine. The one thing I had that was completely mine. After Jerome died, Brandon was wonderful. He'd come over every weekend, fix things around the house, make sure I was okay. He'd bring dinner, we'd sit on that front porch, and he'd tell me about his job at FedEx, his life, his dreams. Then 4 years ago, he met Vanessa. She was 30 at the time, working as a lifestyle influencer on Instagram. Which, as far as I could tell, meant she took pictures of herself in expensive clothes and restaurants and called it a job. Brandon was smitten. Completely head over heels. He brought her to meet me after they'd been dating 3 months. I remember that day clearly. She walked into my house wearing designer sunglasses, carrying a purse that probably cost more than my monthly pension, and she looked around my living room like she was evaluating real estate. "This is quaint," she said, in a tone that meant the opposite. "It's home," I said. "How long have you lived here?" 40 years at that point. Wow. That's a long time in one place. She walked over to the mantel, picked up a photo of Jerome and me on our wedding day. "Is this your husband?" "Yes. He passed away 4 years ago." She put the photo down without really looking at it. "So you live here alone? In this big house?" It wasn't a big house. 3 bedrooms is not big. But I said, "Yes. That must be hard. Maintaining it all by yourself." "I manage." Brandon was watching this exchange with a hopeful smile, like he wanted us to bond. "Ma, Vanessa works in social media. She's got like 50,000 followers." "That's nice, baby." Vanessa smiled at me, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Brandon talks about you all the time, Ruby. He's always worried about you being alone." I'm fine. Of course you are. That smile again. But you know, at your age, things can happen. Falls, medical emergencies. It's dangerous living alone. I was 61 at the time. Not ancient. Not helpless. But she was already planting seeds. They got married 6 months later. Small ceremony, mostly her friends and family. I paid for the flowers, $800, because Brandon said they were struggling with the wedding costs. Vanessa had expensive tastes, and Brandon's salary could barely keep up. After the wedding, I didn't see them as much. Brandon would call, but the weekly visits stopped. When they did come over, Vanessa would walk through my house making comments. You really should update this kitchen, Ruby. These cabinets are so outdated. The carpet in the living room is pretty worn. Have you thought about hardwood? This wallpaper in the bathroom is very 1980s. Always phrased as helpful suggestions. Always making me feel like my home, the home I loved, wasn't good enough. One Sunday about a year after they married, they came over for dinner. I'd made pot roast, mashed potatoes, green beans, biscuits from scratch, the meal Jerome used to love. While we ate, Vanessa said, Ruby, Brandon, and I have been talking. Our apartment lease is up next month, and rent keeps going up. We're spending $1,400 a month for a tiny 2-bedroom. That's a lot, I agreed. Right. And you have all this space here, and you're alone. We were thinking, what if we moved in with you? Just temporarily, until we save up to buy our own place. We could help with bills, help maintain the house, keep you company. I felt my stomach drop. Move in. Just for a year or so, Brandon added quickly. Ma, it would be good for you. You're getting older, and if something happened. Nothing's going to happen. I'm 62, not 92. But it would be good to have family around, Vanessa said smoothly. And we could really use the help financially. Rent is killing us. I looked at my son, at his hopeful face, and I felt the pressure. The guilt. The expectation that good mothers sacrifice. Let me think about it, I said. Over the next week, Brandon called me every day. Ma, we really need an answer. Our lease is up in 3 weeks. Vanessa sent me text messages with articles about elderly people who'd fallen and couldn't get help, about the benefits of multigenerational living, about how much money they'd save. Finally, I said yes. They moved in June 1st, 3 years ago. At first, it was okay. They took the spare bedroom that used to be Brandon's room. They paid $400 a month toward utilities, though I later realized that was about a quarter of what they should have contributed. Vanessa redecorated their room completely, painting the walls without asking, bringing in furniture that didn't match the rest of the house. But I told myself it was fine. It was their space now. Then slowly, things started changing. Vanessa began redecorating the common areas. She'd buy new throw pillows for the couch, new curtains for the living room, a new rug for the hallway. Always saying, the house needs updating, Ruby. Don't worry, I'm paying for it. But it wasn't updating. It was erasing. Erasing Jerome's and my style, our choices, our life. She'd rearrange furniture when I was at my church volunteer shift. I'd come home and the living room would be completely different. Do you like it? She'd ask. I thought this flow was better. I liked it the way it was. Oh, Ruby, you can't stay stuck in the past forever. She started inviting her friends over without asking. I'd come home from grocery shopping to find 5 women I didn't know sitting in my living room, drinking wine, laughing loudly. My living room, where Jerome and I used to sit quietly reading in the evenings. Sorry, Ruby, I should have texted, Vanessa would say, not sorry at all. This is my friend Madison, and Kayla, and Brittany. I'd smile politely and go to my bedroom, feeling like a guest in my own home. Brandon worked long hours at FedEx, often leaving at 6 a.m. and not coming home until 7 p.m. He didn't see most of this. When I tried to talk to him about it, he'd say, Ma, Vanessa's just trying to help. She's got great taste. Let her make the house nicer. But I didn't want it nicer. I wanted it mine. 6 months after they moved in, I started noticing money missing. I kept some cash in my bedroom dresser, usually about $200 for emergencies. One day I went to get some and there was only $50. I mentioned it at dinner. Has anyone seen the money from my dresser? I thought I had $200. Vanessa looked up from her phone. Maybe you spent it and forgot? That happens with age. I didn't forget. Brandon looked uncomfortable. Ma, maybe you miscounted? But I hadn't miscounted. I knew exactly how much was there. It happened again 2 weeks later. Then again. Over 6 months, about $800 disappeared from my dresser. I couldn't prove it was Vanessa, but the timing was suspicious. It only happened when I was out of the house and Brandon was at work. I stopped keeping cash in my room. Then my late mother's pearl necklace disappeared. The one she'd given me before she died, the one I kept in my jewelry box in my closet. I tore my room apart looking for it. Asked Brandon and Vanessa if they'd seen it. No, Ma. Maybe you put it somewhere safe and forgot. There was that word again. Forgot. Like I was senile. 3 months later, I saw Vanessa wearing those pearls in an Instagram photo. When I saw that photo on Instagram, I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. There was Vanessa, posing in front of some restaurant downtown, wearing a black dress and my mother's pearl necklace. The caption read, "Vintage finds are always the best." My mother's necklace. The one she wore on her wedding day in 1952. The one she gave me on her deathbed in 1998, holding my hand and saying, "Keep this safe, Ruby. Pass it to your granddaughter someday." I didn't have a granddaughter. Brandon and Vanessa didn't have children, and at the rate things were going, I wasn't sure they ever would. But that necklace was supposed to stay in my family, not become a prop for Instagram photos. I screenshot the photo and showed it to Brandon that night when he got home from work. "That's Ma's necklace," I said, my voice shaking. "The one that went missing from my jewelry box. Vanessa is wearing it." Brandon looked at the photo, then at me, then back at the photo. "Maybe it just looks similar." "It's the same necklace, Brandon. Look at the clasp. Look at the pattern of the pearls. I've had that necklace for 26 years. I know every detail." He sighed. "Let me talk to Vanessa. She stole from me." "Ma, don't use that word. There's probably an explanation." But there wasn't an explanation. Not a real one. When Brandon asked Vanessa about it, she said I'd given it to her. "Ruby offered it to me months ago," she told him while I stood right there in the living room. "She said she wanted me to have it since we're family now. She said she never wore it anyway." "That's a lie," I said. "I would never give away my mother's necklace." "Ruby, you're confused. You definitely gave it to me. Remember? We were talking about jewelry and you went to your room and brought it out and said, 'I want you to have this.' That never happened." She turned to Brandon with concerned eyes. "Honey, I think your mom is having memory issues. This is the 3rd time she's forgotten something. First the money, then where she put her glasses, now this. Maybe we should talk to her doctor." I felt like I was losing my mind. She was gaslighting me, making me seem senile, making Brandon doubt me. "Ma," Brandon said gently, "maybe you did give it to her and you don't remember? You've been stressed lately." "I am not confused. She stole my mother's necklace and she's lying about it." "Don't talk to my wife like that," Brandon said, his voice harder now. That's when I knew. He was going to believe her over me. His wife over his mother. "I want it back," I said quietly. Vanessa smiled that cold smile. "Ruby, I can't give back a gift. That would be rude. But don't worry, I'll take good care of it. It looks better on me anyway. You never wore it." I left the room before I said something I'd regret. That night, lying in bed in my own house, I felt more alone than I'd felt even after Jerome died. The next day, while they were both out, I went to Home Depot and bought something I'd been thinking about for weeks. A home security system. Not because of break-ins in the neighborhood, though there had been some. Because of what was happening inside my own home. I bought a Ring doorbell camera. And I bought 4 hidden cameras. One disguised as a clock for the living room shelf. One disguised as a smoke detector for the hallway. One hidden in a decorative picture frame in the kitchen. One disguised as a book spine for the bookshelf in my bedroom. I spent all afternoon installing them, following YouTube tutorials, setting up the app on my phone. The cameras recorded to the cloud automatically. I could watch live footage from anywhere. I didn't tell Brandon or Vanessa. I told myself it was just for security, just in case. But deep down I knew. I knew I needed evidence. I needed proof of what was happening in my own home. Over the next 3 months, those cameras captured a lot. They captured Vanessa going through my mail when I was at church. They captured her in my bedroom, opening my drawers, looking through my personal belongings. They captured her bringing friends over and giving them tours of her house, saying things like, "We're renovating, and the old woman who lives here doesn't even appreciate it." They captured her on the phone saying, "I can't wait until she goes into a nursing home. This house will be worth at least $200,000. Brandon doesn't even realize what an asset this is." I watched all of this on my phone, saving the videos, my heart breaking with each one. But I didn't know what to do with the evidence. Brandon wouldn't believe me. If I confronted Vanessa, she'd just lie again. So I waited, and watched, and documented everything. Then in November, 3 months after I installed the cameras, I started having hip pain. It had been bothering me for a while. Arthritis, I thought. But it got worse. Worse and worse until I could barely walk, until I was using a cane, until I finally went to the doctor. "Mrs. Thompson, your hip joint is severely deteriorated. You need a hip replacement." "How soon?" "As soon as possible. You're 65. You're otherwise healthy. The surgery will help tremendously, but the recovery is about 6 to 8 weeks." I scheduled the surgery for January 15th. When I told Brandon and Vanessa, Vanessa's eyes lit up in a way that made my stomach turn. 6 to 8 weeks recovery? Ruby, that's serious. You'll need help. I'll manage. No, you won't. Hip replacement is major surgery. You'll need physical therapy, help bathing, help with stairs. Brandon and I will take care of everything. I can hire a home health aide. That's ridiculous. We live here. We'll take care of you. Right, Brandon. Brandon nodded. Of course, Ma. We'll make sure you're okay. But the way Vanessa looked at me made me deeply uneasy. The week before my surgery, she was unusually helpful. She drove me to pre-op appointments. She asked questions about my recovery. She made a list of medications I'd need. And she asked for my house keys. "Just in case of emergency while you're in the hospital," she said. "If something happens here, a pipe bursts, a package arrives that needs to be signed for, I'll need to get in." Something told me not to give them to her. But what excuse could I give? They lived here. They already had keys to the side door. I gave her my keyring with my front door key on it. The night before my surgery, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed thinking about that look in Vanessa's eyes, about all the videos I'd saved, about the feeling that something bad was coming. At 3 a.m., I got up and checked the camera app on my phone. Everything looked normal. The house was dark and quiet. I told myself I was being paranoid. January 15th, Brandon drove me to Baptist Memorial Hospital at 5 a.m. The surgery was scheduled for 7 a.m. "I'll be here when you wake up, Ma," he promised, kissing my forehead. "Where's Vanessa?" "She had an early meeting. She'll come by later." The surgery went well. I woke up in recovery around 11 a.m., groggy and in pain but alive. Brandon was there, like he promised. "You did great, Ma. Doctor says everything went perfectly." I spent that first day in and out of consciousness, nurses checking on me, pain medication making everything fuzzy. Brandon stayed until 8 p.m. then said, "I have to work tomorrow, Ma, but I'll come by after. Vanessa will visit tomorrow afternoon." "Okay, baby." He left. I fell asleep. Day 2, January 16th. I was more alert. The nurses had me up and walking short distances with a walker. It hurt, but they said that was normal. Around 2 p.m., bored and unable to sleep, I picked up my phone. I opened the Ring doorbell app, just to check on the house. And my heart stopped. There was a locksmith van parked in my driveway. I stared at my phone screen, my heart pounding so hard it made the monitors beep. A locksmith van. Johnson's Lock and Key Service, printed on the side. Parked in MY driveway. I tapped the live feed. The video was clear, HD quality, showing my front door. As I watched, Vanessa came into frame. She was talking to a man in a blue uniform, the locksmith. She was smiling, gesturing at the door, nodding. I couldn't hear what they were saying through the Ring doorbell's audio at first, so I turned up the volume on my phone, hands shaking so badly I almost dropped it. "Been having trouble with the old locks," Vanessa was saying. "They stick all the time. We need something more secure." "No problem, ma'am. I'll have new locks installed in about an hour. Deadbolt and handle set for the front door." "Yes, and can you do the back door too?" "Sure thing. That'll be $340 total." I watched in horror as the locksmith got his tools and started removing MY lock from MY door. "Excuse me, ma'am, you're the homeowner?" the locksmith asked. Without hesitation, Vanessa said, "Yes, this is my house. Well, my husband's and mine. His elderly mother used to live here, but she's moved to a care facility. We're taking over." The locksmith nodded, not questioning her, and continued working. I felt like I couldn't breathe. The hospital room was spinning. She was changing the locks. While I was in the hospital. While I was helpless and stuck in a bed 45 minutes away. She was locking me out of my own house. I fumbled for the nurse call button and pressed it frantically. A young nurse came in within seconds. "Mrs. Thompson? What's wrong? Are you in pain? I need to call the police. Someone is breaking into my house." "Ma'am, calm down. Your blood pressure is spiking. Take a breath. Please. Look." I showed her my phone with the live feed of the locksmith working on my door. The nurse looked confused. "Is this your home security camera?" "Yes. That's my daughter-in-law. She's changing my locks while I'm here. She's locking me out. Are you sure there isn't a misunderstanding? Maybe she's just upgrading the security." She told the locksmith I moved to a care facility. "She's stealing my house." The nurse looked uncertain. "Let me get your doctor. Just try to stay calm, okay? Your heart rate is very elevated and that's not good this soon after surgery." She left, and I sat there alone, watching my phone. The locksmith finished removing the old lock. Vanessa stood there supervising, arms crossed, looking satisfied. Then she turned and looked directly at the Ring camera. For a moment, our eyes met through the screen. Her looking at the camera, me looking at my phone, and she smiled. A slow, cold smile. Then she reached up and covered the Ring camera with her hand. The screen went black. But she didn't know about the other cameras. My hands shaking, I opened the app for the hidden cameras. The one disguised as a clock in the living room had a view of the front door from inside the house. I switched to that feed. There was Vanessa, standing in my living room, looking at the Ring doorbell she'd just covered. She pulled out her phone and made a call. I turned up the volume. "Hey girl, it's done," Vanessa said into the phone, her voice bright and excited. "Locksmith is putting in the new locks right now. She'll be here for another 5 days at least, and by the time she gets discharged, the house will be completely secured. She won't be able to get in." I heard a female voice on the other end, but couldn't make out the words. "No, Brandon doesn't know yet. But he'll understand. His mom can't live alone anymore, She just had major surgery. It's not safe. We're doing her a favor, really. She needs to be in assisted living. Pause. The house. Girl, it's worth at least $200,000, maybe more. Brandon's the only child, so eventually it'll be ours anyway. We're just speeding up the process. Pause. Then Vanessa laughed. Of course she's going to be upset. But what can she do? She's old, she's recovering from surgery, she's got no leverage. We'll tell her it's for her own safety, that she can't handle living alone anymore. If she makes a fuss, we'll say she's confused from the anesthesia or something. My vision was blurring with tears of rage. I know, right? We've been paying her way too much rent anyway. $400 a month for this whole house? That's nothing. Once we officially take over, we can refinance, maybe do some renovations, flip it in a few years. Or just live here mortgage-free. Either way, it's a win. Another pause. Brandon is so naive, he'll believe whatever I tell him. He feels guilty about his mom, so he'll go along with anything that sounds like we're helping her. Trust me, this is going to work perfectly. She hung up and looked around my living room with that satisfied smile. Then she walked out of frame toward the bedrooms. I switched to the bedroom camera, the one hidden in the bookshelf. Vanessa came into my room and started going through my dresser drawers. She pulled out my important documents folder. Inside were my birth certificate, my marriage certificate, Jerome's death certificate, the deed to the house, my will, my banking information. She sat on my bed, and photographed each document with her phone. Then she opened my closet and started going through my jewelry box. She took out my grandmother's gold bracelet, my wedding ring set that I didn't wear anymore because my fingers had swollen with age, a pair of diamond earrings Jerome had given me for our 20th anniversary. She held each piece up to the light, examining them, then dropped them into her purse. I was crying now, pressing my fist against my mouth to keep from screaming. The doctor came in with the nurse. Mrs. Thompson, I understand you're upset. Let's check your vitals. She's robbing me, I said, showing him my phone. Look. That's my daughter-in-law in my bedroom, going through my jewelry. The doctor looked at the screen, frowning. That does look concerning. Have you called the police? I'm calling them right now, I said, my fingers fumbling with the phone. Ma'am, I need to advise you that you're 2 days post-op from major surgery. Your blood pressure is dangerously high right now. If you're going to deal with a stressful situation, we need to monitor you closely. I don't care about my blood pressure. Someone is stealing my house. I dialed 911 with shaking hands. 911, what's your emergency? My name is Ruby Thompson. I'm at Baptist Memorial Hospital recovering from surgery, and my daughter-in-law is at my house right now changing the locks and stealing my belongings. I'm watching it happen on my security cameras. Ma'am, what's the address of the property? I gave her my address on Delwood Avenue. And you say your daughter-in-law is there? Does she have permission to be in the home? She lives there, but she does not have permission to change my locks or take my jewelry. She's stealing from me. Ma'am, if she lives there, this might be a civil matter rather than criminal. She's changing the locks to keep me out of my own house. The house is in my name only. I have the deed. This is theft. Okay, ma'am, I'm dispatching officers to the address now. They should arrive within 15 minutes. I switched back to the living room camera feed and watched. 10 minutes later, the locksmith finished. He handed Vanessa a set of new keys to my house that I didn't have. She paid him cash from her wallet, thanked him, and he left. Then Vanessa walked through the house, my house, looking at everything like she owned it. She went into the kitchen and opened the refrigerator, moving things around, throwing out food I'd bought. She rearranged the living room furniture again. She went into Brandon's old bedroom, their bedroom now, and started making plans on her phone, looking at Pinterest boards for renovations. This wall could come down. she said out loud to herself. Open up the space. New kitchen cabinets. Definitely. Maybe hardwood throughout. She was planning renovations to my house. 15 minutes after my 911 call, I saw flashing blue and red lights through the living room camera. Vanessa's head snapped up. She went to the front door and looked through the new peephole. 2 Memphis police officers stood on my porch. She opened the door just a crack. Can I help you? Ma'am, we received a call about a possible theft in progress at this address. We need to speak with you. A theft? There's no theft here. This is my house. Ma'am, we'd like to come inside and verify that. Do you have a warrant? We don't need a warrant if the homeowner reported the crime. Is Ruby Thompson here? Ruby is my mother-in-law. She's in the hospital. She's recovering from surgery and she's on a lot of pain medication. She's confused. Ma'am, she reported that you changed the locks without her permission and are removing her belongings. Vanessa laughed. A light, dismissive laugh. Officers, Ruby lives here, yes. But she's elderly and unwell. My husband and I have been taking care of her. We changed the locks because the old ones were broken. It's a security upgrade. And we're certainly not stealing anything. We live here. Can you prove ownership of the property? Vanessa hesitated for just a second. The house belongs to my husband's family. Is your name on the deed? No, but... Is your husband's name on the deed? It's complicated. His mother owns it, but she can't live here anymore. We're in the process of... Ma'am, if the property is solely in Ruby Thompson's name, and she did not authorize you to change the locks, that's a crime. Vanessa's face hardened. I want to speak to my lawyer. The taller officer crossed his arms. You can call your lawyer, ma'am. But until then, we need to confirm ownership of this property. I told you, it's my husband's family home, Vanessa said, her voice tight now, her fake sweetness gone. I'm just taking care of things while my mother-in-law's recovering. Then you won't mind if we check the paperwork, he replied. Through the camera, I saw her glance toward my bedroom, where my deed and documents used to be. The same ones she had photographed earlier. Ma'am, do you have identification? The other officer asked. Vanessa hesitated, then handed over her driver's license. One officer stepped outside to radio it in. The other stayed in the doorway, scanning the living room. I could see her shifting nervously, her smile fading. Mrs. Thompson, the officer said into his radio, is listed as the sole owner of the property since 1983. When the words reached her ears, Vanessa froze. The officer outside came back in. Ma'am, since you're not listed as owner or tenant on record, and the homeowner has reported theft and unauthorized entry, we'll need you to leave the premises until this is resolved. Her voice went sharp. Leave. This is my home. My husband lives here. He can contact us when he gets home. Right now, you need to step outside. I could see it, the panic spreading across her face. For the first time, she wasn't in control. She tried one last trick. You don't understand, Ruby's confused. She's been forgetting things, making accusations. She's not mentally well. That's why we changed the locks, for her safety. The officer didn't blink. Then you can explain that downtown, ma'am. They escorted her out onto the porch. She protested the whole way, voice rising, neighbors stepping out to watch. She was still talking when one officer read her rights and placed her in the back seat of the patrol car. I started crying, relief and heartbreak all mixed together. The nurse who had been watching beside me put a gentle hand on my shoulder. Looks like they got her, Mrs. Thompson. But Vanessa wasn't done. An hour later, Brandon called my hospital room. His voice was tight, angry. Ma, what did you do? Vanessa just called me from the police station. You had her arrested. Brandon, I said, trying to steady my breathing. She changed the locks on my house. She stole from me. I have it all on camera. Ma, she told me you've been paranoid lately, that you're confused after surgery. Paranoid? My voice shook. I have video of her taking my jewelry, my documents, telling a locksmith it was her house. Do you want me to send it to you? There was silence on the line. I could hear him breathing, processing. Then, softly, she said you've been having memory problems. That's what she told the police, too. It's her favorite excuse. Another pause. I'll come see you tomorrow, he said finally. But his voice didn't sound convinced. That night, I lay awake in the hospital bed staring at the ceiling. Relief fought with fear. Because I knew Vanessa, she wasn't the type to give up after one arrest. And I was right. 2 days later, a man in a grey suit came to my hospital room holding a folder. He introduced himself as Attorney Fisher, representing my daughter-in-law. Mrs. Thompson, he said smoothly, I'm here to inform you that Vanessa Thompson and your son Brandon are petitioning the court for guardianship over you. They claim you're mentally unfit to manage your affairs. My stomach dropped. Excuse me. They've filed a motion in Shelby County Probate Court. There will be a hearing in 2 weeks. Until then, your accounts will be temporarily frozen, pending evaluation. I could barely speak. They can't do that. He smiled politely, the kind of smile lawyers use when they think they've already won. If the court believes you're showing signs of cognitive decline, it can appoint a guardian to manage your estate. It's a protective measure. Protective. That word burned in my ears. The moment he left, I called the one person I trusted. My neighbor, Eleanor Jenkins, 72 years old, sharp as a tack and tougher than anyone I knew. Child, she said when she picked up. You don't worry one bit. I went through the same mess 5 years ago with my niece. You need a good attorney, not a hospital nurse. I'll call Mr. Washington, the best elder law lawyer in Memphis. You'll be just fine. That was the beginning of the fight of my life. The next morning, Eleanor walked into my hospital room like she owned the place. Wide brim hat, floral scarf, and that no-nonsense walk I'd known for 30 years. Ruby, honey, she said, pulling up a chair. I just got off the phone with Mr. Washington. He's coming here this afternoon. We're gonna shut this foolishness down before it starts. I could have cried. For the first time in days, I felt a spark of hope. Mr. Washington showed up around 2 p.m., a tall black man in his late 50s with a calm, intelligent voice and eyes that looked like they'd seen everything. He shook my hand and said, Mrs. Thompson, what they're doing to you is called elder financial abuse. It's a crime, and it happens more often than you'd believe. He asked for every detail, dates, names, copies of the camera footage, even receipts for the jewelry I'd lost. I handed him my phone. I have videos of everything, I said. Her changing the locks, taking my things, even saying the house would be hers. He watched in silence for a few minutes, then looked at me and said, This is more than enough evidence to dismantle their entire case. But we'll need documentation, your medical report, your cognitive assessment, and a witness who can vouch for your mental state. I nodded. Dr. Moore can help. He's been my physician for 10 years. Good. I'll contact him. We're going to show the court you're not only of sound mind, you're sharper than the people trying to take advantage of you. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying Vanessa's voice in my head. This is my house now. But for the first time, that sentence didn't crush me. It lit a fire inside me. 3 days later, I was discharged from the hospital and sent home, with police escort, since Mr. Washington had arranged a protective order preventing Vanessa from entering the property. The front door still had the new lock, but this time the key was mine. When I stepped back inside, I stood in the doorway and breathed. My house still smelled like me, lavender spray and old wood, but I could see the changes Vanessa had started. Boxes in the hallway, new paint swatches taped to the wall, my photographs stacked face down on the table. I whispered, "Not today, devil. Not my home." 2 days later, a sheriff's deputy delivered official court papers. Guardianship petition, Brandon and Vanessa Thompson versus Ruby Thompson. My hands trembled. but not from fear. I'd already spoken to Dr. Moore, and he'd scheduled a full mental evaluation for the next morning. When Brandon called that evening, his voice was strained but soft. "Ma, please don't be mad. Vanessa just thinks you need help managing things. It's not personal." "Not personal," I said. "Your wife locked me out of my house, stole from me, and tried to forge my signature. Now you're filing for guardianship over me. She said you're being influenced by people who want your money. That you're not thinking straight." I laughed. Dry, tired laughter. "If by people she means Eleanor, then you're right. She's influencing me to finally stand up for myself." "Ma, please." "No, Brandon. I'm done begging you to believe me. You'll see the truth soon enough." The next day, Dr. Moore conducted the evaluation. He asked me to name the date, the president, the hospital I'd been in. Then he moved on to math problems, memory recall, drawing a clock face. I passed every test easily. At the end, he smiled. "Mrs. Thompson, your cognitive function is excellent, better than many people 20 years younger. I'll have this report ready for Mr. Washington by Friday." When I left his office, Eleanor was waiting outside in her Cadillac. She leaned out the window. "So, how'd it go?" "Let's just say," I told her, "if Vanessa wants a fight, she picked the wrong old woman." We both laughed, but it was the kind of laugh that comes before war. Over the next 2 weeks, Mr. Washington built my defense like a fortress. Every receipt, every clip of video, every text Vanessa had ever sent me. He even subpoenaed my bank statements showing the cash withdrawals and a certified copy of my home deed. Vanessa and Brandon, meanwhile, doubled down. They hired attorney Fisher again and started spreading rumors in the neighborhood that I was losing my memory. One Sunday, a church friend told me, "Baby, your daughter-in-law said you can't remember where you live sometimes." That true? I smiled. Let her talk. The truth don't need no microphone. By the time the court date arrived, I was ready. I wore Jerome's favorite blue suit, polished my shoes, and carried a leather folder full of proof. Eleanor, Dr. Moore, and Mr. Washington met me at the courthouse. Standing on those courthouse steps, I whispered a prayer under my breath. "Lord, you've seen every lie, every tear. Now let the truth speak for itself." And it did. The courtroom in downtown Memphis smelled faintly of coffee and old wood polish. I'd never been in one before, and I prayed I'd never have to again. But that morning, as I sat beside Mr. Washington at the defense table, I felt something I hadn't felt in months: peace. Because this time, I wasn't the one hiding. Across the room sat Vanessa, dressed like she was attending a photo shoot, cream blazer, gold necklace, not my mother's pearls this time, and a smug little smile that said she still thought she could win. Next to her was Brandon, my son, looking small in his grey suit, eyes fixed on the floor. He couldn't even look at me. The bailiff called. "All rise." Shelby County Probate Court is now in session, the Honorable Judge Emerson presiding. We all stood. The judge, a stern woman in her 60s with silver hair pulled tight, took her seat. "You may be seated." The opposing attorney, Mr. Fisher, rose first. "Your Honor, we're here because my clients, Brandon and Vanessa Thompson, are deeply concerned for Mrs. Ruby Thompson's well-being. Since her recent surgery, she's exhibited paranoia, confusion, and irrational hostility toward her family. She's accused them of theft and fraud without evidence and endangered her own recovery through stress. We are seeking guardianship for her safety and proper management of her finances." I could feel my blood boiling, but Mr. Washington squeezed my hand. "Let him finish," he whispered. Fisher continued, "The Thompsons have lived with Mrs. Thompson for 3 years, providing daily assistance and financial support. However, due to her declining mental state, she's begun making baseless accusations." Mr. Washington stood. "Objection. My client's mental state has been verified as excellent by licensed medical professionals. We have the report." The judge nodded. "We'll review that in due course. Continue, Mr. Fisher." He smirked and turned toward Vanessa. Mrs. Vanessa Thompson, please take the stand. She walked up like she owned the courtroom, heels clicking on the tile floor. After swearing in, she put on her performance. Soft voice, gentle tone, crocodile tears ready. Vanessa, Fisher said, can you tell the court why you felt compelled to file for guardianship over your mother-in-law? Yes, she said, voice trembling just enough. I love Ruby like my own mother. But lately, she's been confused and forgetful. She accused me of stealing from her, even though we've done everything to take care of her. She forgets where she puts things, repeats stories. It's been hard watching her decline. She paused for effect, dabbing at her eyes. She also called the police on me while she was in the hospital. I was simply replacing the locks for her safety, but she became paranoid. I just want to help her. Mr. Fisher nodded sympathetically. Did she ever display signs of confusion before her surgery? Yes. She once accused me of taking a necklace she had already given me as a gift. She completely forgot about it. I felt the room spinning, but not from anger. From disbelief that someone could lie so smoothly under oath. Mr. Washington leaned forward. Let her dig her own hole, he whispered. When Fisher was done, he said, your witness. Mr. Washington stood and approached slowly, adjusting his glasses. Mrs. Thompson, he said in a calm, steady tone. You mentioned that my client, Ruby, called the police on you. Did you tell those officers she was in a care facility? Her jaw tightened. I might have said something like that, yes. I was trying to explain the situation. So you told a locksmith and 2 police officers that the homeowner had moved to a care facility? I may have said it that way, but it was a misunderstanding. He paced slowly. A misunderstanding. And when those officers asked for proof of ownership, were you able to provide any? She shifted. No, because the house belongs to the family. Is your name on the deed? No. Is your husband's name on the deed? She hesitated. No, but... So, to clarify, you changed the locks on a house that isn't yours, told the locksmith it was yours, and misrepresented the homeowner's living situation to the police. Correct. I was trying to protect her. From what? He asked sharply. Vanessa blinked, caught off guard. From herself. She can't live alone anymore. He nodded slowly. Interesting. And yet, you were the one living there rent-free, using her utilities, and posting photos wearing her jewelry online, weren't you? Her eyes widened. What? He lifted a tablet. Exhibit A, Your Honor. On the screen appeared the photo of Vanessa on Instagram, smiling, wearing Ruby's mother's pearl necklace. Murmurs rippled through the courtroom. Mr. Washington continued, you claim she gave it to you. Do you have any written proof of that? A message? A note? No, but she told me. He turned to the judge. Your Honor, this necklace was reported missing 3 months prior to this photo being taken. We have timestamps, and we have footage of Mrs. Vanessa Thompson removing it from my client's jewelry box while she was at church. Vanessa's composure cracked. That's a lie. Oh, I assure you, it's not. Exhibit B, security footage from the defendant's home. The clerk connected a laptop to the monitor. The footage played, Vanessa, in Ruby's bedroom, going through drawers, holding up the necklace, smiling at herself in the mirror. The sound of gasps filled the courtroom. Brandon's head dropped into his hands. Vanessa stammered. That video is illegal. She recorded me without permission. Mr. Washington smiled slightly. It's her home, Mrs. Thompson, and she has every right to protect it. Would you like me to play the clip where you say, this house will be mine soon enough? Her face went pale. The judge leaned forward. Play it. Vanessa's voice echoed through the courtroom speakers, clear as day. This house will be worth at least $200,000. Brandon's the only child, so eventually it'll be ours anyway. We're just speeding up the process. The judge's gavel came down hard. Enough. She turned to Vanessa, eyes cold. You may step down. Vanessa stumbled back to her seat. Brandon couldn't even look at her. Mr. Washington turned to me and whispered, Your turn, Mrs. Thompson. I stood, knees trembling but heart steady, and walked toward the stand. When I took the stand, the courtroom went silent. Mr. Washington asked gently, Mrs. Thompson, why did you stop supporting them? I looked straight at Vanessa. Because I finally realized what I was getting wasn't love. It was a transaction. My money was welcome, but I wasn't. The judge leaned forward. Mrs. Thompson, are you mentally capable of managing your affairs? Yes, Your Honor. Dr. Moore tested me. My results are perfect. The only thing wrong with me is trusting the wrong people. Dr. Moore confirmed it next. Her cognitive function is excellent, far above average for her age. Eleanor followed, steady as ever. Vanessa used that woman like a bank. And Ruby never forgot a thing. She remembered every date, every dollar. Finally, Mr. Washington showed the last video, Vanessa saying, We're just speeding up the process. Gasps again. Brandon covered his face. The judge spoke firmly. After reviewing all evidence, the court finds that Mrs. Ruby Thompson is of sound mind and sole owner of her property. The guardianship petition is denied. Furthermore, this court refers Vanessa Thompson to the district attorney for investigation into theft and elder abuse. Vanessa's lawyer tried to object. The judge silenced him with one look. Vanessa broke down crying as officers escorted her out. Brandon stood frozen, tears in his eyes. I didn't gloat. I just whispered, What goes around comes around. Outside the courthouse, Eleanor hugged me tight. You did it, baby. I smiled through tears. No, God did it. I just finally stopped being afraid. 3 months later, peace finally lived in my house again. Vanessa was convicted of fraud and theft. Brandon filed for divorce and came to see me, eyes red. Ma, I'm so sorry. I took his hand. I raised you to know right from wrong. Now you do. That's enough. I sold the old furniture she bought and restored my home the way Jerome and I had it. Sunday dinners came back. Fried chicken, mac and cheese, collard greens, laughter with Eleanor and the church ladies. My home felt alive again. With the $50,000 settlement, I fixed the porch, planted new flowers, and took a trip I'd dreamed of for years. New Orleans for the Gospel Festival. For the first time in a long time, I danced. Sometimes at night, I sit by that magnolia tree Jerome planted 42 years ago. I look up and whisper, We made it, baby. They tried to take what we built, but God said no. And I hope every woman listening hears this. You are not too old to stand up for yourself. You are not crazy for demanding respect. And you are never alone, because women like me, big mamas everywhere, are standing with you. If this story touched your heart, subscribe to Big Mama's Stories. Tell me in the comments, have you ever had to cut off family to protect your peace? Share your story. Somebody out there needs to hear it.